Hello, welcome to Bedtime Stories for Night Owls. Today's story is The Bimbleton Express by L.C. Ockenden. Mr. Bumbletoe's cottage lay about a mile beyond the little village of Bimbleton. It was just off the lane that twisted round and about until it reached the neighboring little town of Arkington. Arkington had a much bigger railway station because it was a junction for the main line that ran to London, but it was not nearly so pretty as Bimbleton Station. There were two trains that left Bimbleton every day. It was the same train, really, but twice a day it went to Arkington and back. In the morning it started off at 9:30, and in the afternoon at 4:30. The journey took 25 minutes, although it was only 9 miles away. But of course, if the little tank engine went as fast as it could, the journey could be done in a quarter of an hour. That was a record, and only once did Bumbletoes remember the record being broken. This was how it happened. The mayor of Bimbleton had received an invitation to attend an important meeting in London. Sir Charles Higginbottom was once traveling through Bimbleton, and he stopped and called on the mayor. His great-grandmother had been born in Bimbleton years and years before the railway was made. As Sir Charles was writing the story of his life, he thought he ought to see what Bimbleton was like. Before he left, he gave £5 to the hospital and asked the mayor to come and see him when he returned to London from his holidays. Of course, everyone was full of excitement when they heard that the mayor had received an invitation to have tea with Sir Charles Higginbottom. The mayor ordered a new suit, and Jane brushed up his robe and cocked hat. She cut him some ham sandwiches, too, so that he could not be hungry when he got there. Otherwise, she was afraid he might eat too many jam tarts at tea. The mayor was up at 7:30 on the day. He spent such a time shaving and brushing his hair. It was nearly 9 o'clock by the time he sat down to his breakfast. He was so excited by this time that he could hardly eat a thing. At 9:20, Jane knocked at the door and said, "Oh, sir, you must hurry or you won't catch the train. You only have 10 minutes to spare." Dear me," exclaimed the mayor, jumping up. "I had really no idea it was so late. I must be off." He did not stop to fold his napkin, but hastened out into the hall, and picking up his hat and walking stick, rushed out into the street. He had not got more than 100 yards before he heard Jane shouting from the window. She was waving a bag. Of course, how silly of me," muttered the mayor. "I've forgotten my sandwiches." Jane came running up the street with the bag. "Thank you, my dear," said the mayor. "I shall have to run, I'm afraid." The mayor did not like to be seen running in Bimbleton, but this time he could not afford to miss the train. So he ran a few steps, then walked as quickly as he could, and before long broke into a run again. The Firefly, that was the name of the engine, was already in the station with all her steam up. Bob Noakes, the driver, was drinking cold tea out of a bottle to show he knew all about engine driving. But Harry Hopkins, the fireman, was holding his middle and looking very white. "Oh, I do feel ill, he groaned. "I must go home. I can't go on." "Well, you are a disgrace to your profession, Harry. You must never be ill on duty." "I can't help it, Bob. I must see Dr. Tweedlecup. I have a dreadful pain." And he groaned again. Up bustled Mr. Tompkins. He was the station master, the ticket collector, and everything else. He pulled out his watch. 9:30? What's all this about, Harry? I can't go. I'm dreadfully ill. I must go and see Dr. Tweedlecup. He staggered off the train, still holding his stomach. He went to a birthday tea yesterday, said Bob. It was at Mr. Smith's, and he ate 6 doughnuts without stopping. It serves him right. But gracious me, how are we going to get to Arkington? Whatever are we to do? Can't you manage without a fireman for once? That I can't, exclaimed Bob heatedly. It's against all the rules and regulations. Just at this moment, the mayor came puffing and panting up the stairs. He was very red and hot, and his hat was pushed over the back of his head. Thank you, Tompkins, gasped the mayor. I knew you would wait for me. We weren't waiting for you, Mr. Mayor, said Tompkins. We can't go because we haven't a fireman. Harry has been taken bad. But, stammered the mayor, you must go. I have to catch the London train at Arkington, and it goes out at 10 o'clock. We know that, said Bob, and it's 20 to 10 now, but I'm not driving without a fireman. Whatever is to be done, cried the mayor. Tompkins, what are you going to do? At this, Bumbletoes put his head out of the carriage window. He was on his way to spend the day in Arkington. Here, I'll stoke up the boiler for you, Bob, said Bumbletoes. You just tell me when you want some more coal on. And out he hopped and onto the platform of the engine. Bravo, said the mayor. I'm not so sure it's in the rules and regulations, said Bob. Right away, said Tompkins, very relieved. He waved the green flag. Bumbletoes took off his coat and rolled up his shirt sleeves. Bob blew the whistle, and the Firefly started off. Puff, puff, puff. Bob looked at his watch. 9:45. We shall never do it, he said, and shook his head. Yes, we shall, said Bumbletoes, throwing on some more coal. Let her go. The Firefly's wheels went round faster and faster. The connecting rod was racing up and down, and the coach was bouncing up and down on the rails. The mayor couldn't sit down. He looked at his watch, then put his head out of the window again. The hedges were flying backwards. The cows looked up, startled by the rattling and roaring of the Firefly. We'll never do it, moaned the mayor, looking at his watch again. Away among the hills could be seen the curling white smoke of the Arkington Express. Keep it up, Bumbletoes, shouted Bob on the floor plate. 5 minutes to 10. The express had steamed into Arkington. The Bimbleton train has missed the connection this time, I'm thinking, exclaimed Tom in his signal cabin. My, no! Here it comes after all! Round the curve roared Firefly, Bob looking very grim and important. Bumbletoes was still shoveling on coal. The mayor was already standing at the door, ready to leap forth. The guard of the London train put the whistle to his lips. All the luggage was in, and all the doors were closed. At that moment, the Firefly puffed and whistled into the opposite platform. Before it had stopped, the mayor jumped out of the carriage. He raced across the platform, and a porter opened the carriage door. Just as the train was steaming out, the mayor leaned out of the window and shouted, Well done, Bumbletoes! I'll bring you back some rock. But Mr. Bumbletoes couldn't reply. He was having a well-earned drink of cold tea out of Bob's bottle. The end. Sweet dreams. Night owls.